hello, everyone. I'm holding a very old, thank you, old camera in my hands. This is a Nikon N8008. Does anyone remember this? It still has film in it. I haven't developed it yet. I haven't shot on this camera in 20 years, but I'm going to explain a little story about it here in a bit. But first, today we're going to be talking a little bit about how to use your work and the tools that you use to develop a style for your brand. And I want to open with my first date with a guy. I was living in Portland at the time, my late 20s. And I was in a new city by myself, alone, had just moved from another large city, moved for my career, and I was lonely. So what did I do? I joined Match.com. You remember Match? Yeah. That was before Tinder. And I joined Match.com, and this guy, Marcus, back then you emailed, there was no texting because the iPhone didn't really exist at that point. And he emailed me through the Match.com app, and he asked me out on a date. And I'm like, man, this guy's profile's really good. He's an attorney. He drives a hot blue BMW M3 series. I'm like, yeah, I got it all going on, right? Super cute in his profile picture, okay? So we go out, and at this time, I'm a broadcaster in television news. However, I'm very new to the town, so no one really knows what I do yet, which I think was to my advantage. He took me out to a nice place. We had great conversation, a little socially awkward. You know, he was kind of a nerd. He said things that were a little like, why did you just say that? But the real story came when it came time to take me home. He was super respectful, very nice, and he had everything going for him. Harvard degree, comes from the best family, yada, yada, yada. I mean, us girls, we stereotype sometimes too, and we want the hot guy, right? So he takes me home, and I decide to let him into my apartment for a nightcap, okay? Late 20s, dumb move, right? We're sitting there having a glass of wine, and he proceeds to tell me in his awkward Marcus voice, "You're so pretty. I want to marry you." And I just kind of went, what? You know that feeling where you just don't really know what to do? And I'm like, this guy is in my apartment, and he asked me to marry him. And he goes, and I want to have 5 kids, all boys. Like, oh my God, who says that on the first date? Okay? Then he proceeded to tell me that, I'm like, well, you can't make all boys. You know, it's not really my choice in the matter. It's kind of up to you, right? And he goes, oh no, we'll do IVF. We can make it happen. And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, Marcus is the definition of a really bad brand, okay? On the outside, he's this hot guy, beautiful work, excellent man. But on the inside, and the way he operates and his social awkwardness was a little much, right? It kind of gave me that heebie-jeebie feeling. Well, today, we're going to talk about Marcus in your work, okay? And we're going to decide how we're going to take our work and the style of what we do and infuse it into our business so that the outside matches the inside, right? So we're going to talk about what a brand is, the 3 components of a good brand, the style cycle, how you find your style, and then, of course, how you infuse that in your brand. How many of you struggle with the style of your work? Like, I don't really know what I want to shoot, or if I do know what I want to shoot, how I'm going to shoot it, right? I love what everyone else does. I want to dabble in what Jerry does. I want to dabble in what Joe does. I want to dabble in what Jen does, right? You get to see other people's work, and you're like, wow, that's so beautiful. I want to try that. I want to be like that. But you struggle to make it your own. Well, today we're going to talk about that. So who is your ideal client? Now, for most portrait business, because I happen to work with portrait photography, she's a woman. She has a family. Right? And you need to ask yourself who that person is. If you're a commercial photographer, it's entirely different, right? It's probably ad agencies, it's editorial people. If you're in the wedding business, clearly it's a bride, right? You need to make that bride and her parents happy. So you need to ask yourself, who is your ideal client? You need to understand her. The reason why is because understanding her allows you to message to her in the right way. Your style of your work is going to attract the person it's meant to attract. So as artists, we're trying to infuse who we are into what we do, and that in turn attracts who it's meant to attract, right? So what is a brand? A brand is the presence of your company, the personality of your company, and the promise of it, okay? Why we do what we do. So you're probably asking me, Julia, how does Mirrorless play into this? The title of your program is Using Mirrorless to Find and Define Your Brand. Well, when I discovered the Z7 last summer with Mike Corrado at my studio, it pretty much changed the style of my work. Things changed because of the technology I was using. By using a camera with a large mount, all of a sudden the way the light hit my lens was completely different. Now, would a layperson notice? Maybe not. Would an inexperienced photographer notice? Maybe not. But having trained my eye over 15 or 30 years of shooting, all of a sudden I was like, wow, the mirrorless is the essence of what I want to project in terms of seeing light. And that's what presence is. It's the visual nature of your work, the visual nature of your brand. How do you come across visually, okay? Marcus, the BMW, the law degree, the cute profile picture, the sparkling personality on paper, that's the presence of who he was. Your style and your visual presence are synonymous. Your work has a specific style, right? If you're true to who you are as an artist, it will reflect you. So the definition of style, according to the dictionary, is a distinctive manner of expression, a particular manner or technique by which something is done or created. Style comes organically or planned, okay? You can either plan it and keep with it, or it comes just naturally. It comes accidentally or on purpose, evolved or suddenly. It'll either hit you in the face or gently tap you on the shoulder until you listen. And for me, that was the case. I was so jealous of these people who just came out of the gate going, I have a look to my work. This is me. Confidence. You know, I'm like, oh, I'm over here trying 500 different things, right? Style is knowing who you are, what you want to say, and not giving a damn. Right? It becomes your unique selling point. You guys all heard of that? Being unique in a market? When you can really take yourself and infuse it into your style, all of a sudden you have a unique selling point. Nobody can copy you, right? Nobody can take what's yours because they can't recreate it no matter what. No one can because it's here. It makes you stand out, and on top of that, it attracts your ideal client because she or he or whoever is attracted to what you do. I don't care if you're shooting goth, dark commercial work or light, fresh newborn babies, you have a style and it reflects who you are. So not only does it bring in your ideal client, it defines your unique brand, it commands top dollar because of course you can't be, if you're unique, then you can, get money for it. You can work from here, your true self, keeps the competition at bay, and of course, charge more for your work. Now, my own style journey is quite funny. This is what my work used to look like back in 2008. I was very dark, didn't understand light fully, and was just trying to experiment. You can see that really the only true theme of it was low-key, dark, kind of this, I was hiding flaws in my technical ability with my post-processing, is what I was doing. And then in 2016, my work became a lot more about the subject matter that I wanted to be shooting. It became more about the color tonality, the styling, the props, the negative space, the simplicity. But then 2020 happened, or 2019, and the Z came around. And my work changed dramatically. The light just is fresher, it's more crisp, it's the way it hits the sensor has this ethereal quality to it that I was now able to express simply by a different tool I was using. So to find your style, I liken this to the style cycle. This is how I did it with me, and this is how I see most of my students do it. The style cycle is composed of several points on a circle that can be repeated over and over and over again. In the discovery phase, you can repeat the 4-step find it formula, which we're going to learn. Realization, you create a body of work, you define what's in that body of work, and then you make your own visual statement, the artist statement I call it, and then you can simply keep going around the circle anytime you feel the need to change your style. So if you would like to get this, you can go to, the website didn't pop up there, but you can go to jewel-images.com/style, jewel-images.com/style. Excuse me, I forgot to put the address there. But you can download this formula workbook here so you don't have to write it down today. So what is the first step on the circle? Experimentation. The experimentation phase, everybody goes through it, and everybody goes through it multiple times in their career. It's about doing things over and over again and testing and experimenting with different ideas when it comes to composition, lighting, color, mood, subject, location, perhaps a prop that you really want to use that's been eyeing for a while. How can I work with this? Your camera angle, focal length, aperture, shutter, just any technique. I've discovered I love shooting families from a low camera angle and a long lens. It creates this incredible compression and gorgeous flattering angles for almost any body type and gives it a commercial look to my family work, which is something I love. You can see I've done it here, okay? Shoot images for that element that you want to work on, the prop, the camera angle. Start doing it all the time to see what happens. Try the element multiple times and then know that it takes at least 5 to 7 different times to really feel it out if it's going to work for you. Learn those techniques that you need to master. Perhaps maybe you're not good in manual, or you need to use a reflector more, or you're not seeing light direction, or you love a specific color but you don't know how it pairs with other colors. Play around with it. It's going to take multiple times before you can actually form your own use of it, your own style with it, unless you do it multiple times. Don't just try to use one prop once and go, oh, that failed. I can't do it. I'm not going to use it again. Throw it out. I've done that. But don't do that. So take your classes, hone your skill, and copy your favorite artists. What do I mean by that? Picasso's line, good artists copy, great artists steal. Copy is something I used to do all the time, but it never saw the light of day. I would take an amazing photographer whom I loved, and I would copy their image down to the subject, down to everything. Why? To master the technique. The old great masters, woodworkers of the Renaissance era used to do this. They would take in an apprentice, and they would say to the young apprentice, my young Padawan, copy everything I do, right? Down to the T, because they could not learn the technique and master the skill unless they copied it first. Then they were allowed to take those techniques and make it their own. And that's what Picasso means when he says, good artists copy, great artists steal. You steal a technique, you steal a color, you steal a prop, you steal something, but then you turn it into your unique vision. And that's where creativity begins to grow. Okay, let's talk about the discovery phase. So we're experimenting with things. We're beginning to form an idea of what we love to shoot and how we love to shoot it, right? But then we need to get into the discovery phase, okay? What is the discovery phase? At one time, I decided I wanted to shoot buildings. It was a bad idea. Didn't quite work that well. My husband is a contractor, and this is one of his projects, and he said, honey, go shoot a building for me. It'll be really lucrative. I'm like, okay. Yeah, not so much. Wasn't my thing. Clearly, the image isn't that great. I didn't understand how to light a building. I didn't understand what was important. I went and did it at dawn, and that was about as much as I knew how to do, okay? Learning what you love and what's just a crush or a trend is really important. For me, this was a short-lived crush. So, what's going to stick with you? Sometimes you have to shoot things over and over and over again to truly discover what will actually stick. So what do you want to shoot again? I can't touch a Jerry Gionis. I was telling Michael Corrado back there, I'm like, Jerry's amazing. He just thinks about an image and it forms on his screen. You know, he's so good with light and weddings, and he's just so amazing in these spontaneous, fly by the seat of your pants moments. He can just think on his feet. I have to make an image. I have to pre-conceptualize, think through everything, imagine the lighting, set it all up. Then finally I get my subject in there and I go, bam. Some people are image takers and some are makers. I'm a maker. I'll never be a taker. Okay? But perhaps those takers look at me and go, you're crazy. That's so hard to make an image, right? So what do you want to shoot over and over again? If you're shooting weddings, won't touch them with the 10-foot pole. No, thank you. Other people look at me and go, how on earth do you have so much patience to shoot a baby? This is crazy. I would never want to touch a baby ever. That looks so hard. There's so much patience. Like, I dress dolls for a living and photograph them. That's pretty much what I do. Okay? So try a technique over and over again and decide, is this me? Try it in multiple ways. Low key, high key, different poses. What's sticking? Use different subjects. What are outside sources of inspiration? Pinterest boards are amazing for this. Make a Pinterest board and start replicating that, stealing ideas from that. Begin combining your outside sources with other techniques and moods that draw you in. You will be fascinated to discover if you make a Pinterest board, even guys, it works great for men. I know Pinterest is a kind of a female-centric social media channel, but it works great for men too. Even Instagram now, you can save things to collections, which is really nice. Start collecting ideas and things that draw you in. An image could just draw you in because you like the mood. An image could draw you in because you like the background, or the way the light's falling, or a prop, or an outfit, okay? Save it, get inspiration from it. Later down the road, when you look at that Pinterest board again, you'll be like, oh, I forgot about that. I should try that, or it'll spark an idea to do something else. Then there's the realization phase. The realization phase is when you start to discover, this is me. How many of you who do portraits or something like that go around this trade show and you see all these amazing props and you're tempted because all these businesses just love to tempt you to buy things, right? And you see something and you're like, oh my gosh, that is so cute. And they've stylized it, merchandised it all great. Should buy that, that'd be perfect. And you realize you'll use it once before it's dated in your studio, or once, you only show it on Instagram once before your clients go, I've seen that before. You know, can you give me the little tricycle? Buy things but that could be, for me, I roll my eyes, but for me, that's not my style. It's classic, simple, repeatable, something that will never go out of style, clean lines. That's me. Someone else may be much more trendy and more cute and charming and shabby chic, and that could go great for them. So ask yourself, realize, what is my personality, my persona, my aura, my heart? What is my heart speaking in my art? Creativity is the soul's voice. Each and every one of us has a beautiful inside that is different, and that allows us to create differently. It may be so subtle. My wonderful assistant, Beth, was telling me this morning, she said, Julia, I retouch your images for you, the initial round. She goes, but then you retouch the same image. I can never make it exactly like you. And she's right. Now, she knows me so well at this point that she can come pretty dang close to what I produce. Half the time these days, I don't even tweak anymore because I'm like, oh, she's got it. But in the beginning, I had to tweak every image because I was like, oh, it's close, not quite. So that's what I'm saying is nobody can totally replicate me unless she's been sitting in my studio for 4 years every day, retouching every single session over and over and over and over again. Maybe they'll get it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's really hard to copy someone. But recognition in who you are as an artist is your most powerful ally. Recognize it. Look at yourself and go, what's consistent in my work? When you look at a specific body of your work, what do you see? What do you recognize? Feel about your work. Emotion. Is there an emotion that's always present? When you shoot, do you feel a certain emotion when you're shooting something you really love? Not necessarily happiness because you're enjoying what you're shooting, but something that connects to you on a deeper level that makes you go, yes, this is why I'm shooting this subject. brides, weddings, love, enduring, heaven. You know, sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. I need to express darkness, depression, anxiety. Some of you may know that I struggle with vertigo every day. I stand up here and the floor feels like I'm on a boat pretty much all the time, okay? There was a time when I was very dark in my work because I was constantly, and I had to learn to get used to it, and I was frustrated because it wouldn't go away, and it made my anxiety go even stronger. And sometimes those emotions come through in our work, and we have to let that happen. It's how we express what's here. The second to last part of the style cycle is the definition phase. How are you going to define what you do? How are you going to define it, and then stick to it, right? Because it's one thing, the hard part, how many of you get distracted by things? You're like, you know what you like to shoot, but then you're like, oh, the little pretty birds over here. Oh, they're so pretty, come here, I want to squeeze you, hold you, right? It's like the little fuzzy kitten over there, and you're like, oh, I just want to squeeze you. Porter, my dog, right? Don't be tempted by the dark kitty, the dark side. He's cute and fluffy, but he'll scratch the heck out of you, watch out, okay? It's okay to experiment, but don't implement it into your style until you've realized it's part of who you are, it's sticking, and you can define it. So let's talk about that definition phase. It's knowing how to stay true to your work and what your work is saying to you. Sticking with that. So things to ask yourself are questions like this. How does this make me feel? Do I want to do it every day? All the time? Some things you're like, there's times when I get burnt out on babies. Like I photograph a lot of newborn babies. And sometimes I'm like, another baby. Right? I've been doing it for 10 years. I've photographed way over 1,000 babies, okay? I can make a baby go to sleep in my hands, no problem. Parents look at me and go, will you come home and swaddle my kid for me at 2 in the morning? It's been a long time. And there's times when I truly get sick of it. So I vary it up and refresh my mindset and go, why do I stick with this? What's important to me? And what in the work is making my heart sing? Okay? And why? Could I live with this day in and day out? Now, will I someday change? Will I someday not want to do newborn babies anymore? Maybe. Okay? But I do find myself, now that my son is 8 years old, I'm like, oh, I want to shoot kids. They're fun. Because I know them. And when he goes into middle school, I'm like, I want to go to tweens, right? And then we're going to get to high school seniors, and I'll be like, my son's going to leave the nest. I got to do these seniors. They're so amazing, right? Right now, I look at high school seniors, and I'm like, oh, drama queens. You know, I don't even want to deal with teenage girls, because to me, I was like a horrible teenage girl to my parents. God love them. They forgave me. But, you know, to deal with me at that age right now, no way, okay? But what I'm saying is that it's okay to change, just don't change on a dime. Don't change tomorrow and the next day or the next month and the next month. Try to find what's you and stick with it for 6 months, a year. Especially in the beginning, you'll evolve. How many of you are starting this journey in photography or just starting your business or you're just beginning kind of exploring your style and what to do? How many of you are kind of sick of what you're doing and looking for something different? Yeah, to move on, like you want a refresh start. There's times, and by all means, don't be afraid to just jump in and change. If you're shooting what you hate, why are you shooting? There's nothing that speaks. When you shoot what you don't love, a little part of you dies every time you click the shutter because it's just work. It's just business at that point. And why are we here if we're not doing what we love? As artists, we have the chance to make a living doing what we love. So we have to love it. If you don't love it, dump it. If she's not the right girl, get rid of her because you're wasting time trying to find the right one by being with the wrong one, right? That's the way it is. So, style will stick. And it will stick for a pretty good length of time. Finding your style is an evolving process that takes a while, so be patient with yourself. And while you find yourself wanting to shoot elements over and over and over again, it may be integral to your style. Define your style with a visual description and mood, and that is the final step of the style cycle. Excuse me, refine. Refining is for people like you, who maybe are sick of shooting what you're shooting. This is my son. I shot this last October. I shoot him every October. And the last 2 Octobers in a row, I've shot him with attitude in a low-key environment. What? You've just seen all my work be light and fresh. All my competition images, dark, evil, mysterious. Here I am, this light, fresh photographer, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a image about postpartum depression. Let's make it really bad. You know, it's like this part of me that's getting out, but it's true. Do special projects. Don't be afraid to let this out. Will it stick in my work that I sell? Maybe not. But it's what my heart is expressing at that moment with personal projects, and that may turn into my work. Let it evolve. When you shoot something you love, I love this image of my son. Look at his expression. He is an 8-year-old, don't mess with me. I love Pokemon and football and skiing, and I'm gonna own it. This image to me, I would hang this size on my wall if I could, if I had wall space that big, right? So it sings to me. So if you're feeling stagnant or stale, it may be time to refine. Tread lightly. Try experimenting with something new. And discover again, but be careful. Let it marinate. Let it sit for a while before you just market it out to the world, because then you're like, mark us, right? Don't make decisions emotionally. Make them true to you and be willing to sit on a decision before taking action. Then you end up at the end. You can redo the cycle again when you feel that stagnation. To infuse it in your brand, you put it on your website, your style. Even in the little things like how you'll spoil your customers at their ordering appointment, things like that. In your packaging and your products. In your collateral. Do you see where this is all? It's all ties together. The visual feeling and appeal of the imagery infuses into the presence, personality, and promise of the brand. You will get confidence, cash, and renewed creativity when you define your style. And your ideal client will be messaged appropriately. Why? Because you will attract her. When your style and your brand matches what she loves and speaks to her on a deeper level, she'll go, gosh, it's like this company reads my mind. And it won't be conscious. This is a subconscious thing. Have you ever noticed that the people, for those of you who do have a design style, my clients come to me and they say, oh, I just love what's on your website, just shoot that. I ask them, what colors do you love? Neutrals. Would you like your session to be fresh and bright or rich and elegant? Fresh and bright. They repeat my style back to me because that's what I'm showing to them. So whatever happened to Marcus? Wrong way. There we go. Whatever happened to Marcus? He's in my apartment, telling me he wants to marry me and have 5 children, all boys. Then he puts the nail in the coffin and says, you'll stay home and raise them, won't you? I'm sitting here in my head, okay, this guy is either really dangerous or he's just overly zealous and eager. So there's a little moment of me that panics inside. I'm like, I have to figure out how to get this guy out of my apartment. So I see my trusty Nikon N8008 sitting on the counter in the kitchen, because I'm in a studio apartment and I can see everything from there. And I walk over to, and I thought, well, at least if I get a picture of this guy, if something happens to me, you know, I have a picture of him. This is my late 20s mind, like panicking and not knowing how to deal with the situation. So I turn around and I pick up my camera and I go, yeah, I have a camera class in the morning. And I went click, 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 click at him. And it was on manual. I have no idea what the exposure was. I probably didn't get a shot of him at all. And I said, yeah, I really have to get up early in the morning. So maybe we can do another date another time. He's like, Oh, okay. And he left. I got him out of my apartment. He wasn't a bad guy after all, just a little socially awkward. But let me tell you, he must have called me 10 times after that, and I ghosted him. I didn't want anything to do with Marcus. Marcus is a bad brand. He has a good style on the outside, but it didn't reflect who he was on the inside. And that's what I want you to do. Find who you are as a person, as a heart, as a soul, as a photographer, and infuse that into everything that is you. I haven't developed the film on here yet. I wonder if there's a picture of Marcus on it. I have no idea. Thank you, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nikon Ambassador Julia Kelleher. Awesome program.